Hook asterisk. What would you do if the most powerful woman you know suddenly needed you to be her shield? Stay until the end because what Marcus discovered that day changed everything he thought he knew about strength, vulnerability, and the unexpected places where love finds us. And if stories about second chances and finding hope in the most unlikely moments touch your heart, hit that subscribe button and like this video because this community is built on believing that our broken pieces can become something beautiful. Marcus Thompson wiped the mustard stain from his daughter's chin while balancing a juice box in his other hand. Lily was 5 years old with her mother's eyes and her father's stubborn determination, and she was currently more interested in feeding the ducks than finishing her lunch. "Daddy, that duck is looking at me funny," she announced, pointing at a particularly aggressive mallard that had waddled closer to their bench. "That's because you keep waving your sandwich at him, baby girl. He thinks you're offering him a snack." It was a Saturday afternoon in late September, and Riverside Park was alive with the golden light of early autumn. Marcus had learned to treasure these moments. As a single father working as a project manager at Whitmore Financial, his weekends with Lily were sacred. They had their routine, Saturday morning cartoons, pancakes shaped like animals, and then the park for their picnic lunch. 3 years ago, everything had been different. 3 years ago, Marcus had been married, living in a nice house in the suburbs, believing he had figured out life. Then Sarah had left. Not for another man, not because of any dramatic betrayal, but because she simply decided that motherhood wasn't for her. She had kissed Lily's forehead, told Marcus she was sorry, and walked out of their lives. The divorce had been quick. Sarah didn't want custody. She didn't want visitation. She wanted to start over somewhere new, somewhere without the weight of a family she had never truly wanted. Marcus had spent the first year drowning. He'd moved from their house into a small apartment, changed jobs twice, and learned how to braid hair from YouTube tutorials at 2 in the morning. The second year, he'd found his footing. He'd landed the position at Whitmore Financial, found a daycare he trusted, and started to believe that maybe, just maybe, he could do this. Now, in year 3, he was surviving. Some days, he was even thriving. "Can I go play on the swings?" Lily asked, having apparently decided the ducks were beneath her attention now. "Finish 3 more bites and then yes." She negotiated down to 2 bites, which Marcus allowed because he was tired and because her negotiation skills genuinely impressed him. He watched her race toward the playground, her ponytail bouncing, her laughter carrying across the grass. His phone buzzed. A work email. On a Saturday. He glanced at the sender and felt his stomach tighten. Victoria Whitmore. CEO. His boss's boss's boss. The woman who had built a regional financial firm into a national powerhouse. The woman who walked through the office like she owned the air itself, which technically she did. The woman who had never once acknowledged his existence beyond a brief nod in the elevator. He opened the email, expecting some company-wide announcement about quarterly projections or policy changes. Instead, he found 3 words, Riverside Park. Now. Marcus stared at his phone, convinced he was hallucinating. Why would Victoria Whitmore email him specifically? About a park? On a Saturday? He checked the recipient list. Just him. No CC. No BCC. Just Marcus Thompson, project manager, level 3. He was still trying to make sense of it when he heard the click of heels on the paved pathway. Victoria Whitmore looked nothing like she did in the office. Gone was the sharp black suit, the intimidating stilettos, the hair pulled back in a severe bun. Today she wore jeans, a soft gray sweater, and sneakers. Her dark hair was loose around her shoulders. She looked younger. She looked almost human. She also looked terrified. "Mr. Thompson," she said, and her voice was nothing like the commanding tone he'd heard in board meetings. It was shaky. Breathless. "I need you to do something for me, and I need you not to ask questions." Marcus stood up from the bench, utterly bewildered. Ms. Whitmore, what? There's a man. He's going to come around that corner in about 30 seconds. He cannot know I'm here. He cannot see me alone. Her eyes darted toward the pathway behind her. Please. I know this is insane. I know you don't owe me anything. But please. Marcus had about 1,000 questions, but something in her expression stopped every single one of them. He'd seen that look before. He'd seen it in the mirror after Sarah left, when he was trying to figure out how to tell his 2-year-old daughter that mommy wasn't coming home. It was the look of someone barely holding themselves together. What do you need me to do? He asked. Victoria closed her eyes for one moment, relief washing over her features. Then she closed the distance between them, sat down directly on his lap, wrapped her arms around his neck, and buried her face in his shoulder. Marcus forgot how to breathe. This was Victoria Whitmore. The Victoria Whitmore. The woman whose signature was on his paychecks. The woman who had once made a senior VP cry during a presentation. The woman who was currently trembling against his chest like a frightened animal. He heard footsteps approaching. Heavy. Purposeful. Getting closer. Without thinking, without planning, Marcus wrapped one arm around Victoria's waist and leaned close to her ear. Easy, he whispered. I've got you. He felt her shudder. Then she pressed closer, making herself smaller, hiding behind the shield of his body. A man appeared on the pathway. Tall. Expensive suit, even on a Saturday. Handsome in that polished, too perfect way that Marcus had never trusted. He was scanning the park like a predator searching for prey, his jaw tight, his eyes cold. Marcus did the only thing he could think of. He laughed. Loudly. Like someone had just told him the funniest joke in the world. Babe, you can't say things like that in public, he said, loud enough to carry. He reached up and stroked Victoria's hair with casual intimacy. There are children here. Victoria caught on immediately. She lifted her head just enough to press a kiss to his cheek, her lips barely grazing his skin. You love it, she murmured, playing along. The man's gaze swept over them. Marcus met his eyes with the easy, dismissive look of a man completely absorbed in the woman in his arms. Nothing to see here. Just a couple enjoying a Saturday afternoon. The man's lip curled in disgust. He turned and walked away. Victoria didn't move. Not for 1 minute. Not for 2. She stayed pressed against Marcus, her fingers gripping the fabric of his shirt, her breathing ragged. He's gone, Marcus said quietly. I know. Her voice was muffled against his shoulder. I just need another minute. Please. So Marcus held her. He held his boss's boss on a park bench while his daughter played on the swings 20 feet away, and he didn't ask a single question. When Victoria finally pulled back, her eyes were red. She hadn't cried, but it had been close. She stood up, smoothing down her sweater, trying to reassemble the armor she wore so easily in the office. I owe you an explanation, she said. You don't owe me anything. I do. She sat down on the bench beside him, leaving a careful distance between them. That man. His name is Richard Chen. He's my ex-husband. Marcus hadn't known Victoria Whitmore had been married. Then again, he hadn't known anything about her personal life at all. She was a mystery wrapped in quarterly reports and strategic initiatives. We were married for 4 years, Victoria continued, her voice flat, detached. I built the company during that time. Grew it from 30 employees to 300. I thought we were a team. I thought he supported me. She paused, staring at the ducks that Lily had been feeding earlier. He was having an affair. Multiple affairs, actually. When I found out and filed for divorce, he threatened to destroy me. Said he'd go to the board, tell them I was unstable, unfit to lead. He had connections. Family money. He made my life hell for 2 years. I'm sorry, Marcus said, because he didn't know what else to say. The divorce was finalized 18 months ago. I thought he'd moved on. Then last month, he started showing up. At restaurants. At my gym. At the coffee shop I go to every morning. Victoria's hands were shaking. She clasped them together in her lap. I filed a police report, but they said there wasn't enough for a restraining order yet. He's careful. He's always been careful. Marcus understood now. The email. The park. She had needed someone, anyone, and he had been the only person she knew would be here. How did you know I'd be at this park? He asked. Victoria almost smiled. You mentioned it once. At the company picnic last year. You were telling someone about the duck pond, how your daughter loved it. I remembered. Marcus didn't know how to feel about that. Victoria Whitmore, who had never acknowledged his existence, had remembered a throwaway comment from over a year ago. Daddy. Lily came running toward them, her face flushed with excitement. She skidded to a stop when she saw Victoria, her eyes going wide. Hello, Victoria said, and her voice changed. Softened. You must be Lily. How do you know my name? Lily asked suspiciously. Your daddy talks about you at work. He says you're the smartest, bravest girl in the whole world. Lily considered this. Then she nodded, accepting the compliment as obviously true. Are you Daddy's friend? Victoria looked at Marcus. Something passed between them, something neither of them could name. Yes, she said. I think I am. Over the next few weeks, something shifted. Victoria started saying hello to Marcus in the hallways. She stopped by his desk once to ask about a project he was working on, then stayed for 20 minutes discussing strategy. She invited him to a meeting that was 3 levels above his pay grade, introducing him as someone with excellent instincts. People noticed. People talked. Marcus didn't care. What he cared about was the text message Victoria sent him at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. He was outside my building tonight. Security made him leave, but I can't stop shaking. What he cared about was driving across town to sit with her in her apartment, drinking tea and talking about everything except Richard Chen. What he cared about was learning that Victoria Whitmore, the most intimidating woman he'd ever met, was terrified of thunderstorms because of a childhood memory. That she had wanted to be a veterinarian before her father pushed her into business. That she hadn't taken a real vacation in 6 years. Why are you doing this? Victoria asked one night, when they were sitting on her balcony watching the city lights. Doing what? This. Being here. Listening to me. She turned to look at him. I'm not easy to be around. I know that. I've been told that my whole life. Marcus thought about his answer carefully. When Sarah left, I had nobody. My parents are gone. My sister lives across the country. I had a 2-year-old daughter and no idea how to survive. And I kept thinking, if just one person would show up, if just one person would sit with me and tell me it was going to be okay, maybe I could make it through. Victoria was silent. Nobody showed up, Marcus continued. I made it through anyway, but it was the hardest thing I've ever done. So when I see someone who's struggling, someone who needs a person to sit with them, I show up. Because I know what it's like when no one does. Victoria reached out and took his hand. It was the first time she had initiated contact since that day in the park. Thank you, she whispered. The confrontation with Richard happened on a Friday evening. Marcus had picked up Lily from daycare and stopped by Victoria's office to drop off some files she'd requested. Lily was chattering about her day, holding Marcus's hand, when they stepped out of the building. Richard was waiting on the sidewalk. Victoria, he said, spotting her walking out behind Marcus. We need to talk. Victoria froze. Marcus saw it happen, saw the way her face went pale, saw the way her hands started to tremble. She doesn't want to talk to you, Marcus said, stepping between them. Richard's eyes narrowed. Who the hell are you? That's not your concern. What is your concern is the restraining order that's going to land in your lap next week. Victoria has enough documented incidents now. Your lawyer can explain the rest. This was a bluff. Marcus had no idea if Victoria had enough for a restraining order. But he said it with absolute certainty, the way he'd learned to say things during his worst moments as a single father. Fake it until you make it. Fake it until it becomes real. Richard's jaw tightened. He took a step forward. Lily tugged on Marcus's hand. Daddy, that man looks mean. Something about that, about a child's simple observation, seemed to break the moment. Richard looked at Lily, then at Marcus, then at Victoria. This isn't over, he said. Yes, Victoria replied, and her voice was steady now, stronger, it is. Richard walked away. They waited until he turned the corner before anyone moved. Victoria crouched down to Lily's level. That was a very brave thing you said, sweetheart. Are you okay? Lily nodded solemnly. Is he going to come back? I don't think so. Your daddy scared him away. Lily looked up at Marcus with new appreciation. Daddy's really brave too. He kills the spiders in our apartment even though they're super gross. Victoria laughed. It was the first genuine laugh Marcus had heard from her, unguarded and warm. That is extremely brave. The restraining order went through 2 weeks later. Richard Chen violated it within a month and ended up with 30 days in jail. After that, he disappeared. Later, Victoria learned he had moved to another state, chasing some new business venture, leaving her to finally live in peace. But by then, everything had changed. Marcus was promoted 3 times in 18 months. Victoria claimed it was merit, but everyone knew the truth. He was brilliant at his job, yes, but he also had the CEO's trust in ways that went beyond professional respect. Their relationship evolved slowly, carefully. Neither of them wanted to rush. They had both been burned by love before, both knew how quickly things could fall apart. So they took their time. Dinners that turned into long conversations. Weekends at the park with Lily. Quiet evenings reading on opposite ends of Victoria's couch. Lily adored Victoria. She's really pretty, she told Marcus one night, but not just on her face. She's pretty on the inside too. Like a princess who knows how to do math. Marcus couldn't argue with that assessment. It was a year and a half after that day in the park when Victoria brought up the future. I've never wanted children, she said. They were in Marcus's apartment, having just put Lily to bed. Richard wanted them, and I always said no. I thought I wasn't capable of that kind of love. Marcus waited. But Lily, Victoria continued, and her voice cracked slightly. Marcus, I would do anything for that little girl. I think about her constantly. I want to go to her school plays. I want to help her with her homework. I want to be there when she grows up. That sounds like you want to be her mom, Marcus said softly. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. Is that insane? I'm not her mom. I could never replace. Sarah wasn't her mom, Marcus interrupted gently. Sarah gave birth to her, but she wasn't her mom. A mom is someone who shows up. A mom is someone who stays. Victoria took a shaky breath. I want to stay, Marcus. I want to stay with both of you. Then stay. The proposal happened 6 months later, on a Saturday afternoon at Riverside Park. Lily was in on the plan. She was supposed to distract Victoria while Marcus set up the picnic basket with the ring hidden inside. Instead, Lily got too excited and yelled, "Miss Victoria, Daddy's going to ask you to marry us." Victoria laughed so hard she cried. Marcus pretended to be exasperated but couldn't stop smiling. He got down on one knee anyway, pulled out the ring, and asked the question properly. "Will you marry us, Victoria Whitmore? Will you be my wife and Lily's mom?" Victoria said yes. Lily cheered. The ducks quacked in what Marcus chose to interpret as approval. Their wedding was small. 50 people in a garden venue, with string lights and flowers and a jazz quartet. Marcus's sister flew in from California with her husband and 2 kids. Victoria's mother, a formidable woman who had initially been skeptical of the single father from accounting, sat in the front row and cried happy tears. Victoria wore white. Marcus wore a suit he couldn't really afford until Victoria pointed out that as CEO, she made the budget decisions, and she had decided the suit was a company expense. He didn't argue. Lily was the flower girl. She took the job extremely seriously, walking down the aisle with military precision, counting each petal she dropped. When Marcus saw Victoria walking toward him, something shifted in his chest. 3 years ago, he had been alone. 3 years ago, he had been convinced that love was something that happened to other people, something he had tried once and failed at. 3 years ago, he had been surviving. Now he was living. Really, truly living. The vows were simple. Victoria spoke first. "Marcus, before I met you, I thought strength meant never needing anyone. I thought power meant standing alone. You showed me that real strength is letting someone in. Real power is being vulnerable enough to love and be loved. You didn't rescue me. You reminded me how to rescue myself. And I am going to spend the rest of my life being grateful for that afternoon in the park, when you held a stranger in your arms and told her you had her." Marcus had to take a moment before he could speak. His throat was tight with emotion. "Victoria, I've spent a lot of my life believing that I wasn't enough. Not enough for my parents. Not enough for my first wife. Not enough to give Lily the life she deserved. Then you showed up on my park bench, terrified and trembling, and you trusted me anyway. You saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. You made me believe that I was enough. That we were enough. And now, every day, I wake up and I'm amazed that I get to do this life with you." Lily, who had been fidgeting throughout the ceremony, chose this moment to announce, "Okay, you can kiss now, because I'm getting really hungry and the cake looks really good." Everyone laughed. Marcus and Victoria kissed. And somewhere, in whatever cosmic accounting system keeps track of human joy, a balance was restored. 3 years later, Victoria sat on a bench at Riverside Park, watching 2 children play on the swings. Lily was 8 now, tall for her age, still stubborn, still brilliant. And beside her was 2-year-old James, with his father's eyes and his mother's determination. Marcus dropped down beside Victoria, handing her a coffee. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "That day. The day I sat on your lap." Marcus smiled. "The most terrifying and confusing moment of my professional career. I was so scared," Victoria admitted. "Not just of